This is Rugby Unity. I am David Pembroke, and joining us for a very special edition of the Rugby Unity program is the Managing Director of the Women's Rugby World Cup, Sarah Massey. Sarah, welcome to Rugby Unity.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
You have a very big smile on your face, and that's probably well deserved because the tournament so far has been a great success. When do you think back to the beginning of the planning? And I think the good news is that you brought with you considerable experience from Olympic sport, Commonwealth Games sport, World Championships, athletics, among other things. When you sat down to begin your planning and your thinking, what was it that you knew had to be in place to make this tournament such a success?
I think there's a lot of factors. So I started in this role about 2.5 years ago. Obviously, I worked for World Rugby, so I had the whole ecosystem of World Rugby, who obviously put on lots of different Rugby World Cups before. I think one of the key things that we did straight away was sit down and decide exactly what vision we had and what we wanted to achieve. We were really, really clear about what we wanted this event to be. It was going to be a generational moment for women's rugby, something that was going to grow not only the women's game, but help to also grow rugby as a sport across the world. And we were just really bold with what we wanted to do. We backed ourselves. We went across 8 different venues around the country. We went to some stadiums that had never held rugby before. We went to some really big stadiums, some football stadiums, because we knew that the momentum that women's sport is generating was going to attract lots of new fans, lots of attendances. So, yeah, we just were really bold and ambitious, backed ourselves with what we wanted to achieve, and then built the team around us and the structures around us to be able to deliver it.
So as you sort of assembled that vision, and as you sit here now in the week of the semi-finals, how close are you to what it is that you imagined that you would be able to achieve?
I mean, we've achieved exactly what we wanted to. We've surpassed certain of our targets, but every single KPI and target that we set out to achieve, we've met. So the biggest things obviously were around attendances, they're around viewership and around raising revenue. And most importantly as well, just igniting and empowering real change for women and girls around the world. So if I take the, ticket sales just on its own, we have overtaken our original ticket sales target. We then reset one and then have overtaken that one. We've now sold over 420,000 tickets for this event. We've got 2 huge semi-finals coming up in Bristol this weekend that will both be packed crowds. And then we know already that we've got a sellout crowd at Twickenham. So yeah, from a fan attendance perspective, we've met and surpassed all of our targets. Same on the viewership side and the revenue side, bringing in partners as well.
So I imagine in those earliest conversations, this notion of generational transformation, it would seem that you also decided very early that you were going to make the athletes, the women's rugby players, the stars of this show, and you were going to give them every opportunity to display not only their athletic ability as part of playing the game of rugby, but to bring these personalities, these smiles, this sense of fun, this sense of joy, which has really been seen everywhere, from not only the television coverage, but the social media coverage. You briefed us last night that we're now up to 433 million social media views. So the strategy around storytelling, personality, athlete driven has clearly been a big success around this tournament.
So when we had one of our main goals was to deliver high standards, and that for players and match officials. And that was basically had 2 parts to it. So first of all, we wanted to make sure that we were providing an environment that the players could thrive, that they could bring the best versions of themselves from a competition point of view. So we listened to what they said after the last Rugby World Cup. They were really keen that we gave them individual team bases. So in previous World Cups, they've had to share team bases, share gyms, share swimming pools with other teams. This time we made sure that they had individual team bases. We upgraded the facilities inside all of the hotels. We made sure that all of the pitches were of a really high standard for them to train on. So we gave them the infrastructure around them to make sure that they had everything they needed in order to be able to perform and thrive at their best. And then secondly to that, our aim was to make sure that we were raising the profile of those players, doing everything we could to give them as much visibility and awareness as possible, raise all of their followings, their social media followings. And we did that a number of ways. I mean, obviously the personalities of the players naturally come across. They're accessible. They want to have selfies in the crowd with the fans. You know, they stay around afterwards to sign autographs. Their personalities, and they're automatically, you know, people want to engage with them and the stories that they tell on social. And the other thing that we did was we embedded content creators into each of the teams. So we have somebody in each of the teams being able to capture the behind the scenes content. So that just makes sure that people get to know the personalities better. They see everything, you know, and that trust that was built up between the content creators and the teams and the team management means that comes across social, as you say, the storytelling. So it was a combination of several things that led to why those players have become such stars, why their profiles, and why so many more people have got to know them and want to keep following them and engage with them more. We delivered the standards that they needed for them to be able to thrive in competition, but we also made sure that we were building that infrastructure around them to be able to create content and give them the freedom to then share it.
I think that first point also has played through, and having spoken to a couple of the girls who have been over there in the tournament, I think that respect as athletes has really paid off, because it's not like the experience that they've had before, that they've been treated like the buses, the food, all of the things that you said. It's all the small things, isn't it, that sort of go to that point of, well, World Rugby's actually fair income here. They've listened to us and they've now put in place what we've asked for. And therefore, that then comes back the other way, that they're then prepared to give their best effort across a whole range of activities to bring this wonderful tournament to life. Now, there was in a briefing, and thank you also, congratulations on the weekly briefings that you've been able to keep those of us who are not fortunate enough to be in England at the tournament, but we can follow along, those of us in the media each week. 8 o'clock on a Monday night or Tuesday night in our part of the world. It was last week. You spoke about this diversity, equity and inclusion sort of overlay and approach that you took into the planning, which I found fascinating, really. But it certainly sort of, I thought about it after you made the presentation about it, and I thought, well, this makes perfect sense that you would do it. It just that it hasn't been done. It's not been done before. So it's like one of those things that, okay, well, here it is. Here's this opportunity to, in a way, positively discriminate in favour of women, to give and create opportunities. So could you give us a bit of a background as to how and where that idea came from, and what's the impact that it's had on the delivery of the tournament?
Yeah, so obviously most of the stuff that you talk about and everybody sees, and the record attendances and viewership is all around what's happening on the pitch. We something that we is very deeply passionate to many of us, that we wanted to also replicate that in terms of our diversity and inclusion off the pitch. So we built in right at the very beginning that we were going to be intentional about making sure that this tournament was providing opportunities for women and underrepresented groups to be part of the industry. We recognise there's still a inequality between the number of sports leaders, particularly in the UK. Only 24% of sports leaders in the UK are women, and the sporting workforce is only made up of 7% of ethnically diverse background communities. So we knew that we had this great opportunity and this great platform to be able to showcase women in so many different roles. So we have an all-female leadership team here. So there's myself and 4 others, Amy, Bex, Ashwini and Gemma, who are doing the most amazing job delivering this tournament around the country. And we have inclusion at the very heart of what we do. And what we intentionally did, sort of two things. One of them was we made sure that we were creating opportunities for women in lots of match day roles. So you'll see lots of females, as you say, you think it would be normal and it would just happen, but actually, unless you intentionally actually go out and do it, then it doesn't necessarily. So yeah, you'll find that our commentators and our match officials, our DJs, people who perform on stages, our ball kids, there's a really good representation, gender representation across those different match day roles, so that when you look and when you see what's happening on a match day, you'll see these amazing role models on the pitch. And then you'll see also huge array of other different roles that you can perform off the pitch as well. And what we found is that then other people and other organisations then took it upon themselves to also do the same thing. So our police commander in Bristol, for example, our silver commander who's female, then said, well, we want to showcase female security guards, female police across Bristol when those two events were there. And then the second thing that we did was also quite intentional. Is we built social purpose into our procurement processes. So when we went through our tender processes for suppliers, we built in one part of the evaluation criteria was that they had to also share our social purpose and show that how they were going to use this tournament to create opportunities for women in their organisation as a result of this event. So we saw lots of the project managers and lots of the leads from our suppliers also female led throughout this tournament. So yeah, it's been intentional. We ran an internship program again, very much focusing on allowing people from the industry that maybe are not usually represented in the industry to have a chance of working in the sports industry. They could pursue that career in the future. So yeah, it's been something that we've been really proud of delivering, and we've built an amazing team that hopefully will go on and lead organisations and be part of other sports organisations in the future.
Well, it was certainly encouraging that at that particular presentation, sitting next to you was the head of or a representative of Sport England, who was saying, we're going to pick this up and take it forward from there. So where to from here in terms of continuing around this type of activity in the planning and delivery of major sports events and creating more opportunities, not only for women, as you say, but women from ethnically diverse backgrounds?
So Esther Britton, who is one of the deputy directors at UK Sport and leads all of the major event work, she sits on our board. So we've been working very closely together over the last few years. And the other thing that we also did, to kind of gain knowledge really, is we did a poll. So we did a poll of 18 to 40-year-olds to understand what their perceptions were of careers in sport and what some of the barriers were to them entering sport. And what we've done as a result of that is built a pledge, which is a pledge to leaders in the sports industry, particularly in the UK, because that's where the research was conducted, to give recommendations about how sports organisations can become more inclusive in the future. We know that that's a strength. It makes organisations stronger to have diversity and inclusion built into it. And what's great is that, UK Sport are going to pick that up. So future events that come into the country here will have some of those recommendations built into the process. And they're also going to produce some materials for governing bodies within the organisation and within the UK to take forward some of the recommendations as well. So that work is being developed by UK Sport, and they will take that work on. Obviously, my organisation here and the people within it, we all leave rugby once we finished at Rugby World Cup. But yeah, it's great to know that work will continue into the future and hopefully be of benefit in the future, and some of those recommendations would be put in place.
Well, I've got no doubt that it will be of benefit. So another innovation was the Medical Network Conference, specifically to address lots of the medical issues around playing the game, but again, from a female perspective. Another initiative, another idea. Can you give us a little bit of a background about what that medical conference was all about and what was its purpose?
Yeah, so that's been happening over the last 2 days. World Rugby itself puts a huge amount of resources and investment into women's health specifically, and also into player welfare. So that conference was specifically dealing with and talking about those particular topics. I mean, one of the things that has come out of many of those medical conferences in the past is all about the instrumented mouth guards, which you'll obviously see the players and the female players have been wearing for this tournament. Again, World Rugby put player welfare at the heart of everything they do, and that's one of the things that's been put in place for this event that is helping to forward that welfare consideration for all of the players.
So also looking then around the actual event itself, and with drawing on your experience and looking at what has happened, what has surprised you? Are there pieces that have happened where you've thought, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen? Or, have you had moments where unanticipated moments have taken you by surprise?
I think everything that's happened in the venues is everything that we wanted it to be. So is it a surprise? No. Is it amazing? Yes, that we've managed to create what we wanted to create in those venues and those cities. I mean, there's things that I love and surprise me all the time. But some of the things that really, really bring it home, I think, to me are some of those things that if I'm just in a shop in Brighton a couple of weeks ago, just being in a shop and hearing people talking about the Rugby World Cup, and I was in Manchester during the lead up to some of the welcome ceremonies which the cities were putting on and did it such an incredible job. And I think that really set the tone of the tournament and the spirit of the tournament as well. You could just see how joyous those teams were at each of those individual team bases. But it was funny, I was walking down the road, and there was the Australia bus was outside one of the hotels, and I was just walking past it to go to the welcome ceremony, and it was just really funny. There's a guy at the traffic lights who kind of stopped me. He said, "Oh, did you know that's the Australian women's rugby team over there?" And I went, "That's funny. Are they staying over there?" I said, "Yeah, I live down the road, and I've been seeing them come and go from the hotel every day." It's things like that I think really show me that we've captured imaginations, we've captured hearts. If I'm sitting on a train going between venues and there's just groups of any demographic just talking about the Rugby World Cup and what an amazing time they've had and what it's meant to them. So yeah, it's those things that I didn't maybe expect to hear that make me feel incredibly proud of what we've achieved.
Yeah, and you mentioned the impacts inside the stadium, but I've also read some articles from one in particular from Northampton, where the local council were talking about the economic impact and things like footfall in the local shopping centres and the benefits to the local businesses and other things. So clearly there will be a wrap-up around economic impact and benefit, but surely that in itself, again, has been a major impact and benefit from hosting the Women's Rugby World Cup across England. Yeah,
and it's interesting because so we obviously did 8 venues around the country, and it was one of the things that has, again, maybe this was a surprise as well, as how many more fans were travelling to matches than perhaps we had anticipated. We thought that the concentration of ticket buyers would be very much just those in that local area, but we were finding that fans were travelling quite a long way to see matches in other parts of the country and see other teams playing, which is great. And that obviously all adds to the economic impact, as you say. I mean, we know that that fans are buying merchandise. We know that fans are spending money on travel. We do a big survey after each of the different matches and actually ask, so we will actually capture all that information. Did you stay in a hotel? How did you travel there? What sort of money was spent in the local area on various different facilities and services? So we capture that information. There'll be the whole reporting at the end of this tournament is going to be very, very extensive. We'll have all of that done and release everything at the beginning of next year, but obviously there'll be stuff that comes through before then. The economic impact, particularly for those cities that put on these events, is a really important part of why they put on a major event, to attract people so that what has been millions of eyeballs will be able to see their city promoted around the world. And the cities in particular have done lots of community engagement. So many of them have done different activities with their communities. You know, in York, they had a rugby ball hunt around the city. So each one of them has taken a little bit of something different and put in some engagement, not just with fans, but also with the players. So each of the teams took part in a community engagement activity throughout the one of the weeks of the pool phases. So we had the French team down in Exeter doing dragon boat racing, and the England team when they were in Sunderland, they took part in a beach festival. So the communities and the cities have really stepped up, brought their cities to life, put on fan zones in each of the cities as well for everybody to enjoy. So from their point of view, it's been also, you know, what they've put into it, they've definitely got out of it by engaging fans. And some of those fan zones have been really, really popular.
One of the statistics that you quoted a couple of weeks ago that I took great encouragement from was that 30% of people who were attending the matches were never been to a women's rugby match before, but 90% of them said they'd be back. They would come back to watch and participate. So it's not just watching the game itself, but it's the experience of the entire event. That must be of great encouragement to you. And again, last night, you mentioned that the net promoter score was, I think it was over 80 or something, wasn't it, that you said last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is that's a pretty handy number.
I mean, it's funny because we talk about, you know, industry standards and net promoter score, and if people aren't familiar with it, then it's not necessarily you think 83 is that good or is bad. I mean, that is way above industry standard to have that. And actually, if you look at that metric we measure it in a slightly different way, you know, nearly 9 out of 10 people are rating the event as very good or excellent. So it really is a great score. And the fans are just, you know, the sort of the three things that they say they're loving they're loving the atmosphere, they're loving the engagement, and they're also commenting on how well organised it is, how they get really clear and precise and useful pre-match communication. So we have somebody sitting in our main operations centre every day sending out fan communications to ticket holders just to make sure that their journey is as smooth as possible, and if there's disruptions, they get those real time. So yeah, we've worked hard on the entire fan experience that we've wrapped around those venues. And as you say, you know, when you look at the figures, we know that that's working because people want to come back and experience more women's rugby, which is great. I mean, that's the aim of what we're trying to do.
Volunteers are obviously key in delivering these big events. What's the volunteer story for Rugby Women's Cup 2025? Did you have enough of the volunteers? Did you have them in the right places, you know, in terms of training, all those other things that go into creating, because they play such a key role in the creation of that experience? Yeah,
we love our volunteers. And as you say, big major events like this can't do it without them. I mean, our strategy was pretty clear on what we wanted with the volunteers as well. So we recruited them regionally. We wanted to make sure that we were also not just recruiting the same volunteers that usually either work as a volunteer in sport or in rugby, but bringing in some new volunteers. So we were allowing others to experience just what joy it can be to be part of a big major event. So we recruited them regionally, trained them all regionally. We've got the most amazing workforce team within our organisation that just work with volunteers many times at different events, but just know what it means, what the volunteers need, how to make them feel part of the team. I think that's one of the key things. Is it's not you're a volunteer and we're paid workforce. It's you're part of this one team. And we've just done some great stuff with them. We made sure that each volunteer team within their individual venue, we called them a different name. So the ones down in Exeter were called the Sandy Sparks, and the ones in Sunderland were called the Northern Lights. So there was this and the ones in Brighton were called the Sea Scrum, and it was just we gave them all slightly different names, slightly different personalities, and then they became part of our venue team. And yeah, they worked incredibly hard, big long hours being a volunteer, but they've really added again to the spirit and the atmosphere that we've had within the venues. And yeah, I mean, it's sad because each time a venue closes down, then the volunteers also leave. And we've had just some really touching emails and thank you notes to the team that run the volunteer program in here, just saying how much they've enjoyed this experience, been one of the best things they've ever done. They'd love to do it again. And it was a special moment for them to be part of. So yeah, we've loved our volunteers and everything they've brought to the tournament. They bring joy every day to those fans when they're around.
Have there been difficulties, challenges, things that have, unresolved, or things that have not gone as you would have hoped?
I mean, there's always challenges within an event, but nothing that we haven't been able to manage, nothing that's been unexpected. When you've worked as many major events as many of the people we have here, we have a main operations centre that is looking after all of those different aspects it comes up, whether that be a bus broken down or some of the laundry going to the wrong hotel from the teams, nothing major. It all gets sorted out. The team in here are brilliant at managing that, spotting what needs to be done, solving it on venue if they need to, escalating it up to decision making if it needs to as well. But no, all of the usual things that would happen in a major event, Wi-Fi going down, happens. But we've got a team there to fix it, manage the challenges, and make sure that nobody knows that that's going on. It's all solved under the radar, and what's shown on TV and what the spectators are seeing in venue is flawless. Yeah.
So that's looking back over the shoulder, but let's turn around and look ahead and look to a big semi-final weekend and then through to the final. What can people expect? More of the same? Is the final week? Are there special things planned for the final week? I did note that in the briefing again last night, which I think is a great idea, the annual awards for best referee, best player, best emerging player, best coach are going to be announced in and around the final. Fantastic initiative, really, to celebrate those people at that time. But there must be a lot coming.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly, and I think that's one of the things why we do the fan survey after each match as well. We're continually looking at what we can improve, what can be uplifted, what are people really liking. So definitely we are turning up the fan experience for the Bristol weekend this weekend with our two huge matches. We're putting in some additional presentations, some additional pyrotechnics, just to make it feel even more like the big occasion that it is. So it's stepping it up one more. You'll see
flashing goalposts.
We put in our light up goalposts. Yeah, people are liking those, flashing each time there's a score, which is great. And so it's things like that, small things that add up to that huge sense of occasion that we will bring out for the semi-finals. And then, as you say, leading up to the week of the final as well, there'll be different things going on around London. So we've just opened our fan zone at Battersea Power Station in London for people to go down and experience rugby, try out some rugby, watch the big screen, take part in different activities down there. So yeah, everything ramps up for a semi-final and a final. But the teams are now all in place. They've obviously all moved from their different match venues into Bristol. So the teams are all there, ready, preparing, making their final preparations for those big semi-finals. They'll be obviously doing their team announcements very soon as well.
Mm. And then all the way through to the final at Twickenham, sold out, ground prepared by an all-female ground staff, that was a lovely vignette that was from the discussion around the DEI strategy. That is, in fact, I think that's just a cracking story. And I do hope that we do see some content from the all-female ground staff preparing the ground. And of course, we do hope that it'll be a fantastic match when it gets to the final. But the winning team then gets to put their hands on that magnificent trophy. Tell me the story of that trophy. When that photo came out, I think it was launched at Battersea Power Station.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because when it came out, I looked at it and I thought, oh, how impressive. That is just a beautiful looking trophy. So tell me that story. What is the story behind? Because this is a new trophy, isn't it, for this event?
Yeah, brand new trophy. I mean, it's pretty simple, really. We decided that we needed a trophy that reflected the prestige and excellence and how much the women's game has grown. So, we wanted something that was reflective, like the men's trophy had a as you say, when you look at it, you go, wow, that's an amazing trophy. We wanted that for the Women's Rugby World Cup. The players who are winning the trophy, they deserve that. So we did lots of consultations. It wasn't just, we're going to have a new trophy and what's going to happen to the old one. We had a consultation with players, both past players who've won the trophy and future players who are playing in this tournament, and looked at if it was this the right thing to do. How would people feel about it? Everybody said, yes, let's do that. Something that really reflects the tournament's ambition. And so that went through then a design process. So Thomas Light, one of the famous designers that does a lot of this work for the royal family, they were engaged to produce and design the trophy. Went through several iterations, as you can imagine, about what the material was going to be, what it was going to look like. Obviously got the global map on there to reflect the global nature of the tournament. And then yes, we launched it. You're right, at Battersea Power Station. Seems like absolutely ages ago. I think it was on 100. I think it was on 100 days to
beforehand.
Go.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, and it was. And I think we've shown by just doing something like that, it's been such a focal point, such a talking point. We've taken it on tours around the country, everywhere we go. We try, not everywhere we go because that wouldn't be possible, but we try and have the trophy with us as many times as possible so that people can see it. We took it to Parliament. Everybody wants to have their photo taken with the trophy. So that's been a real success story. And now the team that lift that trophy at the final in what is just over a week's time will be showcasing just the excellence of what they've achieved, and they will have a trophy that befits that as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful design. For me, very strong, very powerful, very feminine as well. A piece of art that is then going to represent this accomplishment for the team, and for them to be able to spend time with it and to bring meaning to it, and for it to have been this symbol of excellence. I think it's another tick on everything that's gone on so far at the Women's World Cup. So, Sarah Massey, thank you so much. Just a quick one before we go. Also, just on the TV coverage, been very positive, and I love that story also about what happened in France last weekend with the French team playing in the semi-final, that the top 14 delayed the kickoff to their matches so people could watch the French women's team play. 3.5 million, but I think it reached towards the end of the game when they were up against the Irish. I think they were behind up until about the 70th minute, but I think it peaked at about 4.8, 4.9 million. So big numbers. The BBC Red Roses, 2.2 million on the BBC. So there's lots of people getting and experiencing it, not just those who are fortunate enough to go to the games, but people are interested, people are watching, and people are impressed.
Yeah, and I think the BBC, that's one thing that we haven't talked about, but that's, our intention right from the beginning was that we wanted a broadcaster that was free to air.
Yeah.
Really important for us that we could get those global eyeballs. And the BBC has been just an amazing partner. Obviously with their regional radio, their regional TV coverage, we've done so much across the venues that we've got with those regional stations, but they've been, what's been also just a great delight to work with them is the additional programming that we've done with the BBC. So we've seen rugby players on rugby content, on lots on the One Show, on CBBS, the children's TV programs, Bargain Hunt, Repair Shop, all of the other programs.
Yeah.
We've had rugby presence on them, which just brings it out to a whole new audience. And they have been a great partner in that regard. And they brought everything to it. They obviously put their top teams on the commentary as well. So they've been doing some excellent coverage throughout the whole of the time now, and that will only continue up to the final.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, listen, Rugby Unity, our mission is to help secure the future prosperity of rugby union around the world. And I think the Women's World Cup has done a pretty handy job of that over the last few weeks. And as we look ahead and get excited for this weekend with the semi-finals and the quality of the football as well. I know we haven't spoken about the rugby, but The quality, I think, has been outstanding. And as we now come to the top 4 teams to play against each other, I think we're going to see the game and the quality of the games go up. The contest, the competition will reach a new level, and we are going to see new standards set in the coming weekend for what is happening on the field. But congratulations to you and to your team for everything that you have done off the field. It sets a wonderful foundation for the future growth of the game. You were setting out to transform and to lay that foundations for future generations and for the future growth of the game. So congratulations to you, congratulations to your team, and all the very best of luck for this weekend and indeed for the week leading up to the final at Twickenham on Saturday week.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your support as well, and the whole of the rugby community. Yeah, hopefully we're doing our part to raise the visibility and awareness of women's rugby and take that forward and just make sure there's long-term sustainable growth for the game.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any doubt. And I think when the history is written, we will look around and we will put our finger on that time in England that said this was the moment when we actually we understood about women's rugby and the potential for women's rugby, and just how fundamental it is to the future prosperity of the game. I think it's fair to say back in 2022 the opportunity was missed, and what we do need to do this time around is to make sure that doesn't happen, that we build on all of this great work that's been done and we go forward with confidence and strength towards the 2029 World Cup here in Australia. So Sarah Massey, Managing Director of the Women's Rugby World Cup in England, a big thanks to you for coming along, and to you, the audience, thank you for coming back once again to Rugby Unity. What a great story. How good is that story about what has happened so far? And I know you've been following along with our special Women's Rugby World Cup programming through the entirety of the tournament, when we've been speaking to Bella McKenzie every week, and also Bella's been having her conversations with Emily Chancellor. We've understood the excitement. We've understood everything about it, but you can see why there's been so much enjoyment because of the work that Sarah and her team have done. And it's the details, isn't it? That's what I love. It's just the small things that they've just thought about everything, executed it well, stayed calm, adapted, moved, and just kept the fan and that fan experience at the heart of everything and all decisions that have been taken. So a big congratulations to Sarah and her team. And to you, the audience, thank you for coming back once again. Like, subscribe, share. And indeed, if you're watching on YouTube, I only found this today, there are hype points. So if you like the Rugby Unity podcast, jump onto YouTube, see the hype points, and give us a couple of clicks on the hype points, because that's going to help us to be discovered as people learn more about rugby, as we do help to secure the future prosperity of rugby union around the world. So, thanks again for joining us, but please, in the meantime, be kind to each other. My name is David Pembroke, and it's bye for now.